Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's the middle of December, so I thought it was about time I updated my Oscar predictions. If you want to see my extended thoughts on the above the line categories, please go check out the previous video on my channel. But in this video, I'm going to be giving my updates on all the above the line categories and also going over the text. Since I last spoke to you, I was able to check out Conclave and Wicked, so I knocked off a few more films on the list. I still have not been able to see everything yet, but I'm working my way towards that. We've also had the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice nominations. So with those, there's a little bit more precursor information to go off of. So there's going to be a lot of shakeups in my above the line categories, and I also feel a little bit more secure in my text. So without further ado, let's jump right into the predictions. And we're going to kick things off with Best Picture. And before I jump into the films, I just want to note I do have pluses and minuses next to some films on screen, and you'll see that in other categories. And that's just how much a film has moved up or down in my personal rankings since my previous video I posted. I still have Anora at number 1. It seems to be the front runner still going forward. I'm interested to see if it's going to pick up wins once these award shows start taking place. But for right now, I haven't felt any shift to make me feel differently. I did move Conclave up to number 2, and that's just because it's performing extremely well at these precursors with nomination counts. Conclave seems to be a movie that many people can just sit down, throw on, and enjoy. And when it comes to the Oscars, they have that preferential voting, so every single voter will rank the Best Picture nominees 1 through 10. And I feel like Conclave is a movie that will benefit from that because a lot of people will like it, and I don't think a lot of people absolutely hate it. And that's kind of why I shifted The Brutalist down to number 3, and I do have Wicked at number 4. It shot up my rankings because it's getting a lot of nominations too, but these two films I feel like are going to have a lot of people that absolutely love them and put them at 1 or 2 in their rankings on their ballot. But I also feel like these films are going to have people that don't care for them. The Brutalist having its 3.5 hour long runtime, and it seems like it's a little bit more dry of a film. I haven't been able to check it out yet, unfortunately. And Wicked will obviously have the people that love the film, love the theater aspect, love the Broadway play that it's adapted from. But I also see a lot of people that don't like the filmmaking techniques behind it. So I feel like these two films, while they are extremely strong and going to get a lot of nominations, I currently, at this point in time, have a hard time seeing them to win. Amelia Perez at number 5, it's doing extremely well with nominations, but once again, I think that's too much of a divisive film for it to take home Best Picture. Dune Part 2, I think, is getting the nominations it needs. I do think it's slipping a little bit in director, which I'll talk about coming up. Nickel Boys, I moved up because it got into the Globes and Critics' Choice. I was personally thinking it was going to miss one or the other, but so far it's getting in everywhere it needs to, so I think Nickel Boys is doing extremely well. But once again, that film has a lot of shots from a first-person perspective, it seems like, and I feel like that's something that's just not something everyone's going to enjoy, so I just don't see that film taking home Best Picture either, but I do think it's nearing a lock for a nomination. And then at number 8, I had The Substance at number 10 in my previous video, and I was kind of talking about, I don't know if the Academy's going to go for a horror film, we'll wait and see. But The Substance is exceeding expectations. It got into director, screenplay, actor, supporting, or actress, supporting actress at both the Globes and Critics' Choice. So if we can see a performance like that at BAFTA, I really think that The Substance is heading for a Best Picture nomination, which is absolutely crazy because I would never expect a film like this to get into the Best Picture lineup. But fingers crossed, because I think it would just be a really, really cool nomination. Then down at number 9, I do have Sing Sing. Sing Sing missed Best Drama at the Globes, which is really weird, and Clarence Macklin didn't get a nomination there either in Supporting Actor. So it leaves me feeling a little bit iffy about it. Sing Sing still didn't have the best rollout when it came to wide release earlier in the summer. It seems like A24 is pushing to re-release the film, so hopefully that goes better for them. But it really seems like A24 is putting all their eggs in one basket with The Brutalist, so I have a little bit of worry that Sing Sing will slip, but I still feel like it's a film that can definitely sneak in, just given that it's more of an easy watch and a heartwarming film from what I've heard. But that's another film I have not been able to check out yet, as it did not play anywhere near me when it was in theaters over the summer. Then at number 10, I have A Real Pain. And I really moved A Real Pain down because it missed the Best Picture nomination at the Critics' Choice Awards for A Complete Unknown, and both films are being pushed by Focus Features, And Focus Features normally does sneak in a film to the Best Picture lineup, but now I'm a little bit on edge thinking it could be A Complete Unknown, which I have at number 11. Right now, it's kind of a toss-up for me. I really want to see if Kieran Culkin is going to win Best Supporting Actor at some of these precursors, because if he does that, I think Real Pain can sneak into the 10. But if we see Timothée Chalamet start taking home Best Actor for A Complete Unknown, I think that would make it a strong contender as well. So I'm kind of on edge with both of these films, but I still have A Real Pain in, just because I feel like it's a little bit stronger at this point in time. Then at number 12, I have September 5, which is picking up screenplay and editing at a couple places, and I feel like with that package, that's enough to sneak into the 10 if enough people get behind the film. And at 13, I have Challengers, mostly because it is picking up a few nominations here and there, but it's also a really strong score contender, although I do think Challengers is on the outside looking in. I truly think out of these films, the top 12 I have listed here are going to be nominated in some sort of combination. I feel pretty locked in with my top 7. I think all of those are 100% getting an Oscar Best Picture nomination, but The Substance, Sing Sing, A Real Pain, A Complete Unknown, September 5, I think you could start shifting those around, and I really couldn't argue with you. With how strong The Substance is performing, though, I'd like to think it's almost a lock, but I could see it getting in pretty much everywhere as a precursor and missing at the Oscars just given the genre of film it is. So there's still a lot of movement to be had here. It's a really wide open year at the Oscars, it feels like. There's just no clear front runner to win Best Picture. You know, we could probably have 4 films contending for that. And, you know, these last few slots are wide open as well. So there's still a lot of movement to be had, but I still feel pretty locked in that the 10 films will come from this list of 13 I have here. Moving on to director, I really only have one massive shakeup since my previous video, and that's Denis Villeneuve dropping out of my top 5. He is just not getting the nominations he needs to, and it seems like Dune is kind of a film that's just kind of hanging in limbo. It'll be like in the 6th, 7th, or 8th slot at the Oscars for Best Picture, and I just don't think that's strong enough for him to get a nomination here. As much as I love Dune Part 2, I just don't see it happening at this point in time with everything that happened. So I still have Corbett and Baker at 1 and 2. I think those are the 2 vying for this Oscar win. But then everything after that, you can kind of mix and match a little bit. I have Ramel Ross in for Nickel Boys. I think the director's branch will really appreciate the first-person point of view style that he took for this film. And then I have Coralie Farjad in for The Substance, and that's just because she's getting the precursors. And if the Oscars are going to nominate The Substance in Best Picture, I feel like it's the type of film that's going to get multiple above-the-line categories. It kind of seems like one of those films that's going to be all or nothing. So if it misses Best Picture, I could see Farjad dropping out. But if it does make that top 10, I feel like she is going to secure a nomination. And then I have Edward Berger in at number 5. I felt a little bit more timid about him a month ago, but for right now, with Conclave performing so well in the nomination categories, I feel like he's one of those films that's just going to come along with the ride. And once again, I see Conclave rising. I think it's a top 2 or 3 contender for Best Picture. So usually when you're that big of a movie in the Best Picture category, director generally comes along with it. I have Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez at number 6. He's someone I could easily see sneaking in. He just seems to be kind of the odd one out at this current point in time. Then I do have Denis at number 7, just in case he does get in. And then I have a couple international directors with Razov and Capadia if they want to nominate a international director. It seems like that's something that the director's branch usually likes to sneak in 1 or 2. So if you want a big shock, you could try predicting one of those. And then at 10, I do have John M. Chu for Wicked, and that's just because Wicked is such a big Best Picture contender. But after seeing the film, that just doesn't seem like the type of directing feat that I see the branch going out to nominate. Kicking off the acting categories, we have Lead Actress. I'm leaving Mikey Madison at number 1. Like I said in Best Picture, until Anora doesn't win something, I'm just leaving it in the top slot for me. At number 2, I have a big movement with Cynthia Erivo moving up 7 spots for her performance in Wicked. A month ago, I just did not feel comfortable putting in a lot of nominations for Wicked, because Wicked's the type of big blockbuster that could have flopped at the box office. It could have got really bad reviews. And that seems dumb saying that now, given how the movie is smashing box office records. It is a massive award contender, but sometimes you just gotta wait and see these type of things. But I do think Cynthia Erivo is contending for a win at the Oscars now, and she is 100% getting nominated. Same can be said for Carla Sofia Gascon. She's 100% getting nominated. I just don't see her winning, though, is my current stance. And the same can go for Demi Moore. If The Substance is making it into Best Picture, like I just said with Director, I'm putting it in these above the line categories. I think Demi Moore is nearing a lock for Best Actress, and I think this is the one nomination the film can get, even if it slips out of Best Picture, just given the field that is contending for nominations here. Then at number 5, I have Angelina Jolie for Maria. I have this film slipping down a little bit just because the film premiered to mixed to slightly negative reviews. I need to check it out on Netflix to see it for myself, but it seems to be a little bit on the edge, but I currently still have her in my 5 just because I think the film could also get a costume nomination pretty easily as well. But I have Marianne Jean Baptiste for Hard Truths at 6. She got into the Critics' Choice Awards, and a lot of people love her performance in this movie, so I can see her getting a nomination as well. And then I have Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. A lot of people are pushing her. A lot of people love her performance. I have not seen the film yet either. I just don't know what her path would be because she got into the Golden Globes. She did not get into Critics' Choice. I don't see her getting into BAFTA personally at this time. She might. She's definitely not going to get into SAG. So she really needs to cross her fingers and hope that BAFTA goes out for her so she has a little bit of momentum behind her going into Oscar nomination morning. And then I have Nicole Kidman and Amy Adams at 8 and 9. I think they're definitely both long shots at this point in time. Nicole Kidman, I think, is a little bit closer than Amy Adams, but I would honestly be shocked if I saw either of these pop up nomination morning. Moving over to lead actor, I'll probably be a bit more brief on this category just because I don't have a ton of movement. I still have Adrian Brody at number 1 for The Brutalist. I moved Timothy up to number 2. It seems like it is going to be Brody versus Chalamet this award season. It'll definitely come down to how the precursors come out. Ray Fiennes is getting nominated. I don't think he can win. Coleman Domingo, he's getting nominated. I don't think he can win. The 5th slot is a little bit up in the air. Daniel Craig has definitely been the best performing so far, so I have him slotted in. Jesse Eisenberg has really only shown up at the Globes, but if A Real Pain does sneak into Best Picture, get screenplay, they're going for Kieran Culkin to win supporting actor, maybe he can take that 5th slot away from Craig just because that would be a lone nomination for Queer. Then I have both of Sebastian Stan's performances for The Apprentice and Different Man. Definitely long shots. Sebastian Stan would probably get nominated for The Apprentice in my opinion if he did get nominated for one of these two films. But that really comes down to if the Academy is watching the movie about Donald Trump, and even if they do watch it, if they want to give the person a nomination for playing him. Definitely politics is probably going to play a little bit into this, which is unfortunate because I don't think it should. It should be about the performance more than, sending a message. But that's just kind of the world we live in. And then I have Hugh Grant for Heretic, and that's just because he made it into the Globes and Critics' Choice, even though I think that is definitely a longer outside shot to make it in. Now on to supporting actress, which is probably the category I'm going to spend the most time on out of all the acting categories, and that's because I have a lot of movement here. There's a lot of people that could sneak in, and this is probably going to be the most cutthroat acting category throughout this award season. I have Zaldana still at number 1, and I did move Ariana Grande up to number 2. I do think those are the two actresses that are going to be duking it out for the win here. I do think Zaldana is going to win, and that's just mostly because she is a little bit category fraud. I mean, Ariana Grande kind of is a little bit too, but Zaldana has so much more screen time than Carla Sofia Gascon and Amelia Perez, and she's kind of more or less the lead character in my opinion, so I don't know why she's being campaigned here, but just because she has so much screen time and she's doing musical numbers, I do think Zoe Saldana is currently the front runner. Ariana Grande could definitely come up from behind and snatch this win though. Then I have Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. She did miss at the Critics' Choice Awards, but I just feel like this is a nomination that the Oscars are definitely going to go out to bat for. They seem to love these longer films, like more intense, grand in scope. They'll nominate those performances. And it sounds like Felicity Jones has a lot of screen time in the second half of this movie, so she's in the film that much, I think she'll get the nomination. Then I have Anjanou Ellis Taylor for Nickel Boys. With how strong I feel about Nickel Boys making it into Best Picture, I think she is the one performance that can get in, as the two lead boys are kind of a little bit younger, so there's no chance of them really making it in. But I do think she has a really, really solid chance of sneaking into supporting actress. Then this fifth slot is where I think it gets a little bit more cutthroat. I have Isabella Rossellini in for Conclave just because Conclave is performing so well in the nominations so far. But once again, she has like 6 or 7 minutes of screen time. She's not in the film a whole lot. She knocks those, few minutes she has out of the park. But I feel like there's some performances below this that have more screen time and are a little bit more showy that I feel like they could go out to bat for. Daniel Deadweiler could sneak in, but once again, I feel like with how cutthroat this category is, her being a lone nomination for the piano lesson seems to be a little bit on the outside looking in long shot in my eyes. And then I have Margaret Qualley at number 7. And I don't know why I have her at number 7, really. I mean, I have everyone else for The Substance making in. Margaret Qualley has done exceptionally well at all the precursors so far. I just have a hard time seeing this nomination happen. As much as I love Margaret Qualley in this movie, I honestly prefer her performance to Demi Moore's in the film. But for Margaret Qualley to get her first Oscar nomination for The Substance when there's so much other competition in Best Picture nominated films, I feel a little bit uneasy about her at this point in time. Same can be said for Selena Gomez. I think there's only one slot for one Amelia Perez girl in this category, and I don't think Gomez was doing anything exceptional in the film, so I think she is a little bit more of a long shot as well. And then I have Monica Barbaro in at number 9, and that's just if the complete unknown absolutely overperforms. And I see now I forgot to even put the title in next to her name. I'll have to edit that. But yeah, definitely a far long shot. But if you told me any of these top 8 girls made it into the top 5, I would not be shocked. And this is going to be a really, really interesting category to watch throughout the coming month or so. Moving over to supporting actor, I have my same top 5. Kieran Culkin still at number 1. He seems to be the front runner at this point in time. Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing. I think he'll definitely make it into the Oscars. Guy Pearce, The Brutalist, once again, top 10 Best Picture film. It'll make it in. Then I have Yura Borisov moving up to number 4. He's getting all the precursors. Honora, once again, a top contender for Best Picture. I think he's going to get in. Then the 5th slot, I'm a little bit back and forth on. I still have Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2 in. I think he's really, really good in the film, so I think he has a pretty solid shot of getting in here. Plus, the Oscars always love Denzel Washington and nominating him. The one way I see him missing is my number 6 person, Edward Norton. If a complete unknown gets into Best Picture, which I don't currently have predicted, I think Ed Norton would come along with Timothy and the film to get a supporting actor nomination here. Then as an outside shot, I have Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Kind of the same feelings I had about Sebastian Stan in the same film in the lead actor category. It's possible, I just have a hard time seeing it happen. And then I have Stanley Tucci at number 8. He hasn't gotten it anywhere yet, but if for some reason the Oscars want to give Conclave 13 nominations or something insane, Tucci is an option to come along with the rest of, the Conclave Palooza, you can say. Up next is Adapted Screenplay, and I moved Conclave up to number 1. I think Conclave is running away with this award right now, with how well it's performing, getting 11 nominations at the Critics' Choice Awards. I just don't see how Sing Sing can overtake it in Adapted at this point in time, given how that film is slipping a little bit. I do think it is Conclave's major, competition in the category, but I think Conclave is a whole tier ahead of the rest of these films at this point in time. Then I left pretty much else the same. Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, Dune Part 2. Complete Unknown at 6. A Complete Unknown definitely could sneak into Adapted Screenplay once again if it gets into Picture. I don't have that predicted right now, so I'm leaving it at 6. I have Wicked at 7. I know Wicked is getting Adapted Screenplay some places with critics guilds and things like that. I just kind of have a hard time seeing Wicked get into Adapted Screenplay, given they didn't change a whole heck of a lot from the Broadway adaptation. And I think the last time a Broadway adaptation got a screenplay nom was when Chicago won Best Picture back in 2002. So unless Wicked really starts picking up Best Picture prizes or screenplay prizes at precursors, I'm not sure if that will get this nomination here. And then I have The Room Next Door still in at number 8, but that film is definitely starting to fade into obscurity as it's just not getting any nominations anywhere. So I feel pretty secure about this number 5 right now. I just got to keep an eye out for a complete unknown at this point in time. Up next, we have original screenplay, and my top 3 have remained the same: Anora, Real Pain, The Brutalist. They're the 3 contending for this win, but I think Anora, once again, is kind of like a tier above the rest of these films. I really feel like right now, Anora and Conclave are 2 pretty locked wins in my eyes, unless A Real Pain really starts to pick up more steam as the award season goes along. I bumped up The Substance to number 4. Once again, I'm putting it in the majority of these above the line categories if I have it in picture. And then I did move September 5 into that 5th slot. September 5 is performing extremely well in screenplay and editing. And with this being a weaker category, I think September 5 can sneak in here. I have Challengers at number 6. That's a film I would really love to see get nominated here, probably over September 5. But I just don't see the film picking up too many nominations outside of score and possibly song. So, we're just gonna have to play it by ear. I think Challengers could also be an editing contender, which would be a really fun editing but I just don't know how to feel about that film overall at this current point in time. Then I have Saturday Night moving down to number 7. That film is getting absolutely nothing, it seems like, anywhere. I mean, Gabriel LaBelle got in for Best Comedy Actor at the Globes, but that's just because there's really no strong actor in that field this year at the Globes. And then I have Hard Truths and The Seed of Sacred Fig, which are just some outside long shots that could possibly sneak in here too. All right, now let's jump into some categories I have not talked about yet this year, and that's the techs. We're going to kick things off with cinematography. I have The Brutalist at number 1. For how massive that movie is in scale with such a limited budget, I feel like this is a film a lot of people want to reward for what was done. It seems to be like a grand, sweeping epic of sorts. I can't wait to check out this movie because a lot of people seem to be blown away by the cinematography. Then I have Conclave at number 2. I thought this film was very, very solid with its cinematography when I saw it. I really, really liked how this film was shot. And with how big of a Best Picture contender it is, I do think it's going to get a nomination. I have Dune Part 2 at number 3, and I definitely think it's going to secure a nomination here as well. I think Dune might underperform in the wins a little bit more here. Dune picked up a lot of tech wins during the award season when Dune 1 came out, and with knowing that Dune Messiah will eventually hit theaters, I have a feeling that the Academy may cool on giving it too many trophies. Kind of giving it the Lord of the Rings Two Towers treatment. Two Towers underperformed a lot at the Oscars, and that's mostly because they knew a third film was coming, which ultimately ended up winning a bunch of Oscars and took home Best Picture. So I feel like Dune 2 could be a little bit lacking, even though it'll pick up a lot of nominations in text this year. Then I have Nickel Boys with its really cool first-person perspective. I feel like that's something that will be nominated. And I have Nosferatu. I want to check this out, Christmas Day, Robert Eggers' new movie, but a lot of people are absolutely blown away by how stunning this film looks. And there's always one film that seems to sneak in that really isn't contending for above-the-line categories in the cinematography category. Usually it's a black and white film, but we really don't have that this year. So I think Nosferatu can kind of snatch up that 5th slot. Then I have Maria, which seems to be a really beautifully shot film as well, but once again, its mixed reviews have me a little bit on edge. Then Amelia Perez, Wicked, The Girl with the Needle, which I believe is a black and white film. I don't know too much about that film, so I don't want to speak too far on it, but I see a lot of people, maybe predicting that film to pick up a cinematography nom. And Anora. A lot of these texts, I'm just going to say this in the first one, I do wait to see what the precursors have to say before I start predicting too hard, but I do feel pretty secure in my top 5 that I have here in this one at this point in time. Up next is costumes. I have Wicked number 1. I think Wicked is probably going to run away with this prize in my eyes. 2, Dune Part 2. Dune has some really fantastic costumes, but I don't think it's anything eccentric enough for them to want to award it here being the Part 2 film. Gladiator 2 has some fantastic, like old Roman style costume work going on. Maria for some fantastic dresses and suits and things like that. Conclave, I really enjoyed the costumes in Conclave, even though they are, a little bit more bland. Nosferatu, I heard, has some fantastic costume work. I think that's a film that could sneak in over, Conclave if they just don't want to go out for those more, simple type of costumes. Beetlejuice, if they want to have a little bit more fun, although I have a little bit harder time seeing it getting in this category. The Brutalist, Furiosa, Emilia Perez, all on the table, but I do think this will probably come down to the top 7 here, and I feel pretty solid about those top 4 picking up nominations in this category. Then we have makeup and hairstyling, The Substance. I will be livid if The Substance doesn't pick up this Academy Award. Even if it doesn't make it into Best Picture, The Substance deserves to win makeup and hairstyling this year. Just absolutely phenomenal work in that film. Then I have Dune Part 2. There's definitely a lot of makeup going on in Dune Part 2, with Austin Butler's character and kind of like the evil overlord character. A lot of stuff going on. That's really cool there. Then I have Wicked at number 3. I think that's just going to perform extremely well in the text. Nosferatu again. Once again, I think Nosferatu is going to pick up another tech here. At number 5, this is where I think Beetlejuice can sneak in. Michael Keaton is just caked in makeup. They had the shrunken head guys running around. Then you have Tim Burton's, wife, his girlfriend, I don't know, she was playing that character that had to staple herself together. That was really, really cool makeup work. So I think Beetlejuice has a really good chance of making it in. I think A Different Man could sneak in here. It's a little bit more indie, a little bit more small, but it's definitely something the Oscars could go out for, especially because the makeup branch sometimes likes to go out for smaller films. Then there's Sasquatch Sunset, which I think is a really cool film considering multiple actors had to wear head-to-toe Sasquatch suits, and it was all practically done, and they had to apply makeup to all their faces so their facial expressions would show through it. I just feel like this film might be a little bit too indie. It made almost no money at the box office. At least A Different Man has A24 behind it. But Sasquatch Sunset would be kind of a funny and really well-deserved nomination. And then I have number 8, I have Furiosa. I feel like Furiosa should be contending for more Oscar nominations than it is, but it seems like a lot of people just kind of forgot that film even existed, and it's not even picking up many precursor nominations. So it's very unfortunate because I think Furiosa does deserve some recognition at the Academy Awards. I just feel like it's kind of a long shot to get in right now. Up next, we have film editing. And right now, this is one award I do have Dune predicted to win. And that's just because that's the editing that has really stuck out to me so far this year. The only other film that really has editing that is so eccentric and kind of in my face that I want it to win would probably be The Substance, but it's just not picking up any precursors right now. That's why I have it all the way down at number 8. But then I just kind of have this block of films I just don't know what to do about. The Brutalist, Anora, and Conclave, which are, I said, they're all top tier Oscar Best Picture contenders. Anora and Conclave, the editing in it just didn't stand out to me to the point where I think it deserves a editing Academy Award. The Brutalist, I heard, has a lot of long takes, which makes me feel like that means more minimalist editing, which generally doesn't win the Oscar. Most time you want maximalist editing is generally what wins, or just very, unique editing. So I don't know how to feel about it. September 5 is the film that's sneaking in everywhere in editing, like I talked about in screenplay. Screenplay and editing are where September 5 are currently getting in everywhere at, but I just don't know if it doesn't make into Best Picture, if it can just win a lone film editing win. That seems odd. I have Challengers at 6. I think Challengers deserves a nomination probably over Anora or Conclave, but sometimes the Academy Awards just likes renomming the same Best Picture contenders in all these categories, and I unfortunately think that's probably what's going to happen here, as much as I absolutely love the editing in Challengers. Emilia Perez didn't really blow me away, but once again, Best Picture contender, I have to put it in there. The Substance, like I said when I mentioned Dune Part 2, I love the editing in The Substance. It's like its own character in the film, but for some reason, the precursors are just not going out for it right now. And I just would be happy if The Substance got into Best Picture, so I don't want to go out and predict that the Oscars are then going to go out of their way to also nominate in film editing and basically over-nominate The Substance. I just don't see that happening. Nickel Boys, I want to see the editing myself. I heard it's really solid, but it being shot in first person just seems very strange to me. I wonder how that works being edited together. And then I have Wicked at 10. I would be upset if Wicked got nominated for film editing. I think it was one of the weakest parts of Wicked. But I guess we'll wait and see. But it's a top 4 contender, so I have to at least have it on my list. Then we have production design. We have Wicked at number 1. Wicked's winning this. It probably deserves to win it. That is a massive, massive set that they put together. They planted all of those flowers for that opening shot. Just absolutely stunning work from a production standpoint. It absolutely, definitely deserves to win this award. Dune Part 2, I really love the production design in Dune Part 2 as well. But once again, I think it's going to have Part 2 fatigue and just not pick up this win. Gladiator 2 also has some massive sets that also could probably deserve to win. I just don't see it winning over Wicked, considering it is such a strong Best Picture contender. Then I have The Brutalist and Conclave. Definitely probably more low-key production design here, but there's nothing else that's really maximalist and in your face that I want to put in here. So right now I'm just putting some Best Picture frontrunners. Nosferatu, I heard, has really great production design, so if that does truly overperform in the text, that's possible. I already have Nosferatu picking up like 2 or 3 Oscar nominations, so I don't want to over-predict that film too much, given that it is, horror adjacent, and with The Substance already possibly getting to Best Picture, I don't know how many horror films they're going to go out to bat for. Beetlejuice, Tim Burton movie, you always have to toss it in there. I definitely think it is a long shot, though. And once again, Furiosa probably deserves a production design nomination. I just don't see it happening with how that film is currently standing. Up next is probably the easiest technical category to predict, and that is score. And it's so easy to predict because all of the precursors have had the same 6 films. The Brutalist, Conclave, Challengers, The Wild Robot, Amelia Perez, and Dune Part 2. Well, Dune Part 2 was already deemed ineligible by the Academy due to it reusing too much music from the first film. So you just drop that off and you put in the next 5, and I think those are the ones getting in. Saturday Night is the film I think has an outside shot, and that's just because John Baptiste did the score for the film, but I think it has such a long shot to get in. I think it's such a long shot to get in just because that film is showing up absolutely nowhere else, which you could also say is the same with Challengers, but the score is so much better for Challengers than it is for Saturday Night. Then I have Sing Sing, Wicked, The Room Next Door. These are just kind of the next up on Gold Derby, which I pulled off just because I didn't know what else to really include here, just because the top 5 is so strong at this point in time. Now we have sound, and this is another film I have Dune Part 2 winning just because the sound design is so incredible in this film. I've Gladiator 2 at number 2. All the battle scenes, that's definitely an opportunity. That definitely has an opportunity to sneak in and win here. Wicked, I think, will get in just because it's a musical, and that goes the same with Amelia Perez. They definitely like nominating their musicals in the sound category, although I just don't feel like there's enough here for either of them to pick up the win. And then I have Complete Unknown at number 5, just because it's a musical biopic. Those seem to show up a lot in sound as well. I don't know, this is definitely one I'm going to have to rely on some precursors, see how some other pundits feel, but I do feel pretty confident that those top 3 are going to get in, probably even top 4. I do have The Substance at number 6, which I think does have excellent sound design, but once again, I'm not going to go out of my way to predict the Oscars to over-nominate a horror movie when I already expect it to get into categories like director, picture, lead actress, and screenplay. But if they want to go all out, I'm all for The Substance getting nominated for sound. Then I have The Brutalist. Furiosa, once again, should probably be getting a sound nomination. I just don't feel comfortable predicting at this point in time. Conclave, I enjoyed the sound in that film, even though it's nothing over the top or crazy. And then I do have Blitz at number 10, which is a film that kind of fell off the face of the map. I had it in a lot of above-the-line categories in my video in November, and I just deleted it straight out. I feel like Blitz is a film that is fading extremely fast out of this Oscar race. Up next is visual effects. I have Dune Part 2 in at number 1. This is another category I feel like Dune should win in. Hopefully the Oscars don't have too much fatigue about this film because I think it definitely deserves it. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at number 2, and I have Better Man at number 5, just because they have really strong mocap, really strong CGI for the monkeys that are in both of the films. At number 3, I have Gladiator 2, which has some excellent CG to complement the massive sets that were established for the film, and that can be the same for Wicked at number 4 as well. At number 6, I do have Mufasa in. I'm expecting Mufasa to not perform too well, at any awards body. I feel like it's just going to be a repeat of The Lion King, and I don't quote me on this, I don't think The Lion King got in for visual effects, the live action version when that came out. So if that didn't get in, I have a hard time seeing Mufasa getting in. But for some reason, Barry Jenkins kind of crafted something that's a little bit better than most of the Disney live action slop. Possibly Mufasa can sneak in here just because it's a film that no one has seen, so that makes sense why it hasn't shown up at any precursors. Number 7, I have Furiosa. Once again, should probably be in here. Don't feel comfortable predicting it. And number 8, I have Substance, which actually made the long list for the Academy Awards, which I was shocked about, and it got a Critics' Choice nomination. That would be, I don't even think it probably deserves a visual effects category when it has all these massive CGI blockbusters it's up against, but that'd be insane. Twisters at number 9, and then I have Godzilla, Kong the New Empire at number 10. Once again, just very heavy visual effects movies that have a possibility of sneaking in here. Animated feature, I'm going to keep this one really short. These top 5 films have gotten in absolutely everywhere. The Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, Flow, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, and The Wild Robot is obviously the front runner at this point in time. I think if any film is going to possibly beat it, I think it would be Flow. That seems to be the heavy critics, darling right now. So if they want to go for something outside the box and not give, DreamWorks or Disney a win, I think Flow has an outside chance. And then I have Moana 2 at number 6. I think it's the only film that has an outside chance of overtaking Wallace and Gromit here, but I would be absolutely stunned if it was not this top 5 I have listed. Then for original song, I have El Mal and Mi Camino at number 1 and 2 for Amelia Perez. I do think one of those two is going to take home the prize. Which one, I will rely on the precursors to tell me. Because I really don't have a preference at this point in time. Then at number 3, I have the annual Diane Warren slot with The Journey from 68888. Never heard of the movie, but Diane Warren will get her nomination. At number 4, I have The Wild Robot's Kiss the Sky. That's doing extremely well at this point in time. And then number 5 is where you can kind of swap some things around if you'd like. I currently have Compress Repress from Challengers, just because that has been getting the precursor nominations it needs. But I will say Challengers, isn't contending for a lot of techs, so you could have a one-off nomination show up here. Beautiful That Way from The Last Showgirl is doing extremely well right now too. That would be like a lone nomination for this film because I don't think Pamela Anderson is going to get in. Forbidden Road from Better Man, so that would be an original song and a visual effects nomination for that film, maybe. Then maybe Like a Bird, Harper and Will Go West, Piece by Piece. I think a lot of these songs could sneak into that 5th slot there. But I am leaning towards it being Compress Repress or Beautiful That Way taking home that final 5th slot for this category. Then we have International Feature. Amelia Perez is going to win this award. Hate to break it to you. If it makes it into Best Picture, you automatically win the International Feature. That's generally how it goes. But then we have The Seed of the Sacred Fig, I'm Still Here, and All We Imagine Is Light. I feel like those 3 films are locked in for a nomination. And that 5th slot is the one that's kind of a toss-up here as well. I have Vermiglio in right now, but I think Flow could contend there if it sneaks up and becomes a bigger animated film contender. The Girl with the Needle seems to be like a film that people are buzzing about. I have not seen it yet. And Kneecap just feels like a film that I don't think the Academy would go out for, but it is, getting some precursor nods as well. And finally, we have documentary feature. I have not seen any documentaries so far this year. I relied heavily on Gold Derby, other YouTubers, other pundits to put this list together, but I have No Other Land, Daughters, Black Box Diaries, The Remarkable Life of a Bellin, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, Sugar Cane, and Dahomey. From everything I've read so far, it feels like these are the 7 that are contending for nominations, and it seems like No Other Land and Daughters are the 2 frontrunners right now. Definitely something to keep your eyes on, but one that I'm not too well informed on myself. So, if you weren't keeping track at home, this is a current rundown of the 13 films I was considering putting in for Best Picture and how many nominations I currently have them in for. I have Conclave and The Brutalist leading the way with 10 nominations each. I have Dune and Amelia Perez at 9. I will note one of Amelia Perez's nominations is in the International Feature category, so you can say that's 8 or 9 depending how you feel. I have Wicked with 8, Anora with 6, Nickel Boys and The Substance with 5 apiece, Sing Sing with 4, A Real Pain with 3, A Complete Unknown, September 5, and Challengers, which are the 3 I currently have outside of Best Picture with 2 apiece. I want to thank you for checking out my video of my updated Oscar predictions. Just for future housekeeping, I'm going to talk about what videos will be upcoming on my channel. I'm hoping to have one final Oscar nomination prediction video before the nominations in January. Then I want to have a live reaction to the Oscar nominations. And then I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break because I have to have a small surgery done. I'm getting my tonsils removed, but once I'm healed up from that, I'm hoping to have a final prediction on who I think will win the Academy Awards, and then also follow that up with a live watch along, or a live reaction to the Oscars, I should say. So definitely make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along for all of my upcoming Oscars content. But other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.